that our job is to take care of the people who took care of us. If I don't know what's happening in those facilities, what's important, not just to the owners or the administrators, but to the LVNs and the CNAs, I don't think I'm doing my job. We need everybody to be in the best environment possible, because this is a hard job that people do. And so what can I do to make their lives better and provide better service? If a mistake was made, take ownership of it, work the problem and get it resolved to everyone's satisfaction. Disconnect between our federal friends at CMS and what they do, what the state agency does.
Patients are our purpose, and that at the end of the day, all of our decision making should be that there's greater level of care tomorrow than there was yesterday.
It just takes a special person that has that heart for service for the elderly. But at the end of the day, this is a hands-on people business.
Yep.
And that's what we have to have. We are here to take care of the people who took care of us.
That's right.
And that's the mission. Ain't none of us getting out of here alive.
Yeah.
And so what's the legacy you want to leave behind? It's not about me or you or any of us individually. It is about what we do collectively to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And you do that one person at a time. So.
All right. Welcome to Our Purpose Podcast, a podcast where stories from skilled nursing and long-term care come to life. I'm your co-host, Kip Kruger, a voice shaped by industry experience and a belief that everyone's story has a purpose and it's worth telling. James Dieter, CEO of Principal Health. Hello.
Hey, Kip. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Chris Light, COO of Principal Health. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks.
Good. James?
Yeah, I would like to introduce Travis Clardy. Thank you for being here. We're real excited to speak with you. President and CEO of Texas Healthcare Association. He's a East Texas native whose career trajectory from civil litigator to state legislator. He served on the Human Services Committee.
Right.
To advocate for leadership, and he's positioned him as a pivotal figure in Texas in long-term care. So we're going to chat about that today. We're really excited to hear about what you have got going on with Texas Healthcare Association and just get to know you a little bit better.
Good. Happy to be here and appreciate y'all coming down. You know, we're in the middle of our 75th Platinum Convention and Trade Show here in Houston at the George Brown Center. Huge crowd we have coming in. Filled up the exhibitors hall. So we're off to a great start this morning and looking forward to the next couple of days.
That's awesome. You know, first and foremost, what is it that you've been able to do to kind of uptick the interest in THCA? I mean, we've been coming to this for years, and this is definitely, this year's different.
Right. Well, you know, I'm still relatively new to the position. I took the spot about June 1st of last year. I think my first official day was in D.C. for the congressional briefing then. And so, you know, the first few months, I was able to find the bathroom on my own and the coffee maker. So get that out of the way.
Right.
You had some experienced staff, so we've looked at where we are there. But I've got a great team assembled. You know, really are plugged into this. We have a great bunch of committed folks. And then, you know, today or tomorrow, we'll have our board meeting, House of Delegates, and so we're looking to install some new board members. So we're getting some new blood. You know, and I think that's been not only me as a newbie, although you know I worked with the THCA on legislative matters, and prior to that, in my practice represented long-term care facilities. In all sorts of different capacities. So I was familiar with it, but it's been really interesting, and it's been a great learning experience for me to be around these the board members and the owners and the operators, and then their administrators and their staffs as we've gone around the state. And it's, you know, the commitment that I see within the THCA to elder care. You know, one thing I like to say, James, is you know, that our job is to take care of the people who took care of us.
Right.
And I think that means a lot, you know, and then I've got a lot of pet theories I'm working on, but it's been a great experience. I love the folks that I work with. And what makes it easy is I know they have that heart, that compassion for service. And so I just try to make it a good of environment as I can and bring more people in the fold. You know, we're better together. In a lot of ways, not just legislatively, but I think as a profession. So I'm happy where we are, but I'm excited about where we're going even more.
Yeah, well put. You mentioned new blood. So tactically speaking, when you talk about the new folks that you're trying to bring on the team, what are you trying to accomplish? Are these folks that have, you know, more of a specialization in legislation, or is it someone that's more activist? Are they out there? Is it DC? Is it Texas? Where are you making the change from?
Yes. It's all of the above. So, and that's one thing special about the THCA. the legislative component is important. I mean, a lot of the funding, a lot of the what allows us to serve the vulnerable population is the funding that does come from the state legislature, in large part through the Medicaid rate, but also the QIPP program, which is a federal program. But those things all come together. So it's hard to do the job if you can't pay the people to do the work and take care of our folks. So that's always a focus. But in the meantime, a big part of what we do, and this is 24/7, 365. You know, we were asked a question a while ago. Chris asked, well, how often does the legislature meet? And as I said, it's every 2 years, 140 days. Now, asterisk, that would be nice if that was always the case. In my 6 terms in the Texas legislature, I think there was only 2 sessions where we did not have a special session. And I can promise you there's nothing special about a special session. But it drags on an extra 30 days tacked on, 30 days tacked on. And so it takes a lot of time. But in those instances where you're not in session, special or otherwise, the regulatory environment still exists. HHSC, which most folks don't know this, the Health and Human Services Commission, is the single largest agency, not just in Texas, but in the United States. The largest state agency in the United States is the HHSC. And there's some very highly qualified, competent people there. We've got a very good working relationship with them, but there's a lot of moving parts. And we are in a heavily regulated industry, and rightfully so. Nobody argues that. But part of our job is to keep an eye on that and make sure that we're being treated fairly, that our members have good due process and ability to be heard and what works. I think that relationship should not be, and it's part of my job to make sure it does not become adversarial, but it needs to be arm's length and respectful, and that's what we're moving towards. So there's that. But then a lot of it's just getting out. You mentioned, I think I'm East Texas. Yes, that's true. So we live in Nacogdoches, the oldest town in Texas, but I grew up in West Texas. I'm a flatlander by birth, went to college in Abilene, have been all over the state as a practicing lawyer. So it's kind of prepared me to go around, but I love kept going around into our facilities. We had a meeting at one of our HMG facilities here a couple of weeks ago. Cam Shepard on our team just had one of our representatives, Mark LaHood, at a Touchstone facility in San Antonio. And we're going to be doing that throughout, not just for photo ops, but really to get to know what's happening in the trenches. Because if I don't know what's happening in those facilities, what's important, not just to the owners or the administrators, but to the LVNs and the CNAs, I don't think I'm doing my job. We need everybody to be in the best environment possible, because this is a hard job that people do. And so what can I do to make their lives better and provide better service?
Yeah. So speaking as a former administrator, like you speak to the administrators who are listening to the podcast, like what is THCA doing to make their lives better?
Well, one thing, and again, this is an ongoing conversation, but probably the thing that keeps them up awake at night is the increased number of findings of citations for immediate jeopardy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And again, we live in a fallen world. Mistakes will be made, and we do our best. One thing I've appreciated as a lawyer historically is our folks, if a mistake was made, take ownership of it, work the problem, and get it resolved to everyone's satisfaction.
Sure.
But what we have seen of late is this really exponential increase of IJs being written across the state, really irrespective of what region of the state, but more term is compared to other states and other jurisdictions.
Sure.
And it would make more sense, but for when you look at the other metrics of quality of care, we have done a fantastic job in the last 5 years of really measurably, objectively, based on analytical, empirical data, quality of care has gone up. So it just doesn't make logical sense. If we're taking care of the little things and quality of care is going up, why would we have this huge spike of IJs? Now, we've been trying for some time to get to the bottom of that and understand it. And I don't want to point fingers at anybody, but there's always going to be, and I think right now we're having a little, let's just say, a disconnect between our federal friends at CMS and what they do and what the state agency does. And we're going to try to work on that. So, I'm looking forward. I talked recently with some of our friends at ASHKI, my state executive colleagues around the country. But what I want to do is get our 5-state area, which is the CMS region, which is Texas plus our 4 neighboring states, and get my colleagues together, go to Dallas and have a sit down with them, because we all share these same issues. And again, it's not like, oh, just you need a paper over this, let it go, ignore it. But we need to make sure we have a fair environment for appropriate level of regulatory activity. So that's something I think the administrators really worry about, because we've seen some IJs written that just don't make sense. And the one thing that kills me as a lawyer, kills me as a legislator, and it's still killing me, is I've never understood if a surveyor comes into a facility and then talks on the exit as they go out the door, and that's the key component, and don't say anything to the people there, and later on, then a couple weeks later, a month later, you get a report, and it says this is immediate jeopardy. Then how did you leave? How could you leave in good conscience as a human being? If you think someone in that facility is in some immediate danger of harm or of death, you need to step up and
maybe don't take 3 weeks. For
maybe don't take 3 weeks, or write it up and it goes back and gets rewritten and overwritten and comes back as an IJ.
Yeah, as an administrator, I had that happen to me.
Yeah.
How close are we to rectifying the situation and getting back to a good square?
Well, we're one day closer than we were yesterday, but it's a process.
Did you have a big win on that?
Yeah, we did. We did
resolution reform.
Yeah, I was very pleased this session. We passed, I think, the first legislation, actually 2 pieces, that THCA has passed in some time, probably over a decade.
Good for you.
Now, I carried some things before, but it can be it's kind of tough to pass legislation sometimes. So now we've done tweaked around the edges, but this was major, I think, of interest for us. And one of the things has to do with the appeals process, the ADR process, and we were seeing where the agency, whether they were told to by the feds or not, the fact remains, IMPRO, the arbitrator that would make the decisions, would say, no, HHSC, that's too much. That's not an IJ. That needs to be written down or whatever. And they were being routinely, not like every once in a while, like 10% would be flipped. It was somewhere around 80% were being flipped if they got the result they didn't want. And so the whole point is, why go through the process? Because I'm a big believer in due process.
Yeah,
and so if somebody chooses to appeal that and goes through the time and expense to do it, and then you ignore it, the people will stop doing it, because what's the point? I mean, you're going to take my people, I'm going to commit time and resources because this isn't right. And then they say, you're correct. Yep. Your folks didn't make that kind of mistake. We're going to write this down or dismiss it. You walk out the door feeling great, and then you get a letter saying, never mind. Yeah. So we passed legislation to keep that from happening.
Fantastic.
I want to hit this from another angle. So we actually, our purpose podcast is all about the patients. So we feel that patients are our purpose, and that at the end of the day, all of our decision making should be that there's greater level of care tomorrow than there was yesterday. This morning, an article came out by the Texas Association of Health Plans, and it was in Stat News, and it was titled, "Hospitals Get Dinged for Reporting Too Many Infections. In some cases, the solution is not to test infections." And we've started to see this quite a bit on all levels, from hospitals to skilled nursing to assisted living. These folks are getting dinged for quality metrics. So the idea is, well, let's just quit testing for infections. So we're obviously in the diagnostic space, so we see this first and foremost. How do you feel about how these different levels of Medicare scrutiny, quality score scrutiny, QIPP scrutiny is starting to impact care?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic you just talked about. Back in my days as I'm a recovering politician and legislator, but I say there's 2 rules of the law that are always in effect. One is the law of gravity. We're not going to float out of our desks, but the law of unintended consequences is always at work. Yeah. And so sometimes policies with the best of intentions lead to unintended consequences, what you're talking about. Sure. If this is going to get us in trouble, then let's just don't do that. It's a hurt when you hit your thumb. Yeah, well, don't do that. And so, but that's really counterintuitive. It's not what we need to be doing. We need to be re-examining and looking at the service we're providing as being efficacious, and it's also being fair as it is. And so that's a troubling fact. But on the same token, I saw a headline. I don't know if it's Wall Street Journal or New York Times, but this huge Medicaid fraud case has been. I don't think it's been proven yet, but it's been alleged, like staggering, like trillions of dollars of systemic fraud in the system. So there's a balance. You got to look at all of those things. But again, speaking in our world with our folks and the members of the THCA, and just I've been around them. I know these people, and then they want to do the right thing. They want to be fairly compensated, but they care about quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today we had, I think, a record number of the American Healthcare Association has the Quality Award program. And I think we had a record number of bronze awards. And that's not just, like I told the group this morning, you don't just send in some box tops and sign a form. There are a lot of quality metrics to get you there.
It's exciting.
Several. And we had a silver award winner. One of our Touchstone facilities received the silver award. So it's big. So I think there's that commitment within our association to do those things. But if as I used to say in the legislature, you can't slop the trough and be surprised when the pigs show up. Same thing here. You can't do things that don't make sense.
Yep.
And not expect some reaction that on another level doesn't make sense.
And I'd echo this. We've worked with now close to 1,000 buildings here in Texas, and it's just the vast majority of pretty much everyone desires to have a high quality of care.
100%.
I mean, this space has just been super impressive. And to talk about the level of care that's provided for the small amount of dollars that's actually going around, it's really impressive.
Well, and one thing that's so important that we do, because I was talking to a friend last night, one of the parents aged and probably in their last few weeks, if not days. And we all get our turn in that box.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Judy and I went through with our parents. My mother passed away in one of our facilities in Nacogdoches, great facility. They did a fantastic job with her, but that's part of life. The death process is a part of life, and that's what we're trying to do with compassion, with integrity, with care. And so, we've really, focused in on those issues and like I said, I love the hearts of service that we have. So it's a important thing we do because everybody will have this experience.
Sure.
I think without exception, either you will be in that bed in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or your mom and dad will, or your brother and sister will, or people that you know and love. And so we all have a stake in getting this right.
Yep. 100%.
I had a
Go ahead.
question about just in general. You hear a lot of statistics. You probably know these better than I do, but just the aging population is coming and we're short beds. So I'm all over the state and I don't see a ton of new construction. And so can you just talk about what from a THCA strategy or just in general, an industry strategy, or how are we going to get these folks in beds and what is it looking like?
Yeah, Chris, great question. I mentioned I'd been in DC June before last, and I heard the demographic then, and this is a statistical fact nationwide that in 10 years, 2035, that the demographic that is served, that kind of key 78 to 84 age, 80 to 84 age, is going to go up by 50% of residents who need the services that we provide. I think in Texas, that number is going to be closer to doubling because of all the reasons we know. I mean, inside every American, there's a Texan trying to get out. And they are moving here in droves. Since I took office when we first ran in 2010 to right now, every day, 1,500 people are moving to Texas. As we like to say, they don't bring any electrons of energy. They don't bring any bottles of water. They don't bring, but hopefully what they do is bring their family and bring the resources, bring a commitment to what we're doing right here in Texas. And so we're going to have a bigger population to serve. There's the physical plant consideration. Do we have enough beds? That I'm confident, we're an entrepreneurial group down here. If it's good business, they will come. We're seeing a really, really energetic change of ownership in existing facilities. People wanted to come to Texas because what I just said, they see that too. They also see we had a very successful session when it comes to increasing the Medicaid rate, the previous session with the PDPM money, and then this time with the rate increase on Medicaid for dietary and nutrition. And so we're getting back in line, and the QIPP program continues to work well. It's really vital for the services we provide in rural Texas. So the money part is coming there. It's making it more attractive for people to come in. The demographics are there. So that part, I'm confident the market will take care of it. We will see an ample supply of bricks and mortar facilities put in the places where they're needed the most because the market will drive it. My concern is, though, Chris, a lot of the people who we'll take care of in 10 years right now, what are they doing? They're actually working and providing the health care for the current population. But we are all going to get older. And so you see this graying of our population. You talk to electricians, you can talk to virtually any profession, and there's this graying, the senior tsunami is coming, where they're going to lose a qualified workforce to do the job that we know is going to have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I will say in Texas, we were very aggressive trying to expand nursing programs, community college programs, to put more vocational tech programs into our public school system. So, and try to invite and attract students into this arena. And you know this, it takes a special person to want to provide elder care.
No doubt.
You know, and whether you're a doctor or a CNA, it just takes a special person that has that heart for service for the elderly. That's the biggest challenge we face. And so one thing, I'm happy that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick will be here tomorrow speaking as our legislative keynote address. He knows this, one, because he's even older than me. But you know, he was really spearheaded the initiative for the dementia care, the DPRIT, you know, similar to the Cancer Prevention Institute. So he's there, but big part of my job is to underline, to highlight, to get on the soapbox and preach that if we don't get ahead of this issue now, we can't wait for it to be a crisis in 10 years because you can't fix this problem overnight. And if we don't get ahead of it, start bringing people and attracting people to move here with these skills, to have more programs, to incentivize people to be involved, we're not going to get there. And I know there are some proponents, and including myself. You know, my mother, she moved in with us. We took care of our family and our home. I think that is optimal. But I also knew we got to a point that with my mother and with Judy's folks that we can't do this. Yeah. We don't have the training, the equipment, the knowledge to actually handle this, and also the demands of running back and forth to Austin legislature, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think there's a place to expand home care to support that. There's some things we do there, but at the end of the day, you know, we've already seen a changing of what our long-term care facilities, what they looked like 20, 40 years ago, where you would walk into the community room and probably over half of your population, if not more, were ambulatory, were in reasonably good health, but the acuity of our residents now is so much higher.
Yeah, it is. Sure.
That's not going to change. So it's not like we can just take in tougher cases and the number will stay essentially the same. We've already done that.
Yeah.
You know, so now, you know, we see several things that are coming to bear on help people are living longer, which again makes our what we do even more important. I think in the Texas legislature, we're seeing that. I was very gratified. My colleague and cohort up in D.C., y'all probably met Cliff Porter, the national president, stepped in. He's about a guy just, you know, stepped on top of a burning ship when they named him the captain. He steps in there. We have the litigation, which we did successfully prevail on the staffing mandate.
Good.
Yeah.
We can talk about that as deep as you want to. Get me in all your questions. I'm very happy. But we were successful in the lawsuit that we filed here in Texas. But, you know, here comes the change of leadership in D.C. and our national, you know, focus. And here comes the one big, beautiful bill. And we had a big delegation go up from Texas. I think we had somewhere in the mid-20s. So we have a congressional delegation of 37. I think we met with 24 or 5 of them, plus the senators focused on Texas issues. But, you know, the Medicaid rate, you know, was, where's that going to come down? And we were tremendously successful under Cliff's leadership to preserve what we have, because I think deep down people, what I just said, understand, hey, this is, all of us are going to have to deal with this. You know, we're all going to have to deal with an aged population, parents, and one day ourselves. So there's motivation to do it right.
Sure.
But I think that's been with our Republican majority state and in the federal. You know, sometimes they'll throw nickels, you know, nickels around like they're manhole covers.
Mm-hmm.
But there are places that as I used to say about education, you don't spend money on education. You invest money in education.
Right.
And in healthcare is the same thing. This is essential, fundamental, and we need to invest in the future. Some of it's going to be infrastructure, Chris, like the buildings and the mortars and the licensed beds. But more than that is going to be the human component and getting those people identified and push them towards us where they can have a very fulfilling career, not only financially, but personally,
Sure.
And so that's a big part of what we do.
Awesome.
You named quite a few different strategies to get there. If you had to pick one or two and say the next 12 to 18 months and said, I've got to get this one thing done to get this kind of very big, snowball going so that we have the buildings, but also just the concepts down. I mean, what would that look like? I mean, what do you really have to get done?
Well, I think the one thing we need to do is we need to get, the principal leaders within this sector together under one roof. And I think THCA is that roof.
Mm-hmm.
So we have better input from all the folks to work together collectively and make sure we speak with one voice. That's can be a frustrating thing. And, when it works great if you have a choir and everybody's singing in the same key.
Yep.
It sounds beautiful. But if you get some folks singing in E and some folks singing in C and some people in D flat, it's not going to work. And so it's kind of the same, but that lack of harmony and a unified voice can really be counterproductive.
Sure.
Not only does it not accomplish the goal, it can actually be counterproductive. So that's a big part of my role, I think, to bring people on board, to make sure we have those ideas and principles aligned, specifically as to policies that we want to push. I'm excited. We have a good friend, Katie Callaghan, coming in from HCA. So we're looking to develop our provider-owned network, which is a great thing because it takes the burden off of, and look, we live in an environment where the managed care organizations have a lot of clout, influence, resources, et cetera. And, you talk about a David and Goliath story to ask each individual facility or administrator or small group to go negotiate with them to make sure they're being treated right for rates, et cetera, reimbursements, is unrealistic.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's compounded by the fact that there are laws, again, justifiably so, as it relates to, the Stark laws or anti-collusion type laws. So we honor and respect those, but this is a way we can work together, band together, and go address those. And we've seen success in other jurisdictions. It was literally, when I first started, I said, that's where we need to go. And again, to centralize and concentrate and get on a single sheet of music and a single message. So that's a big one for us. Internally, I want to be working with our committees and developing. I think the hardest thing that we all got to get arms around: how do we create this skilled workforce that we need?
Sure.
And so we need to identify legislators and legislation, things that have worked in other places or things that we can do. I'm not afraid of recruiting people from other jurisdictions or venues to come to Texas.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
I've been in a lot of facilities, and I know some hospitals use the H-1B visa program. Is that, I actually don't know in skilled nursing, but obviously it just got marked up pretty extensively.
Yeah.
Is that, obviously that could be a strategy, but it's now an expensive one. But how do y'all think about that?
I've not had a chance to really talk to Cliff and his team about this. What I expect is that was kind of a broad announcement. What I think everybody expected was that was going to be limited to kind of the AI high-tech world. And in that context, it might make sense because people with the money involved, that makes sense. Doesn't make any sense on the healthcare level. Mm-hmm. So, there are tried and true routes. I think particularly, we have had historically a great relationship with nurses coming in that are trained and educated in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
They've been tremendous on our staff, great people. And there are others. I would hate to see that closed down at the time we really can't afford to have it closed down because they want to charge, $100,000 fee. That seems excessive, maybe in certain circumstances. But so part of our job at THCA and HCA is to make sure that is limited in scope and put that, the only tool is a hammer, everything's a nail.
Yeah. And
this needs to be a more finely tuned policy. I don't disagree with the concept behind it. But that doesn't work here, especially in a shortage. So we'll do that. Great question, but I think we can come back and do additional programs. And the key for us, and one thing I pushed for when I first got in office, in 2013, at that time, vocational technical training had really fallen out of favor for a bunch of historical reasons that are no longer true. But it was a chore to get it back on the menu back into our schools. We need to continue to push that, have those career pathways that lead to elder care. Yep. So, but again, it's going to be a real challenge because we're not going to, we're not at the static number. Here's our trained staff, and that's not going to change. So how do we go from here to add 20% more workers or 50%? And I know we're going to be able to leverage better with AI, some monitoring things we can do and use that to our benefit. But at the end of the day, this is a hands-on people business.
Yep.
And that's what we have to have. So it's a challenge.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more. That's interesting. Do you mind if we double click on the voice? So I think it's, everybody knows there's kind of two organizations in Texas at this point. THCA has always kind of been the forefront. And then it seems there is another organization that I'm sure you're alluding to. And you mentioned that it's your job to bring them together.
Right.
Do you have can you speak to that as far as, I don't know how deep you want to go in if there's a negotiation happening?
I'll tell you, we've been having some conversations. We worked together through the session. And these are people I've known in my legislative chair that have come in and talk about these issues and have had a tremendous relationship. It's not just our friends at the coalition, but there's also Leading Age, with the nonprofit. Sure. And there are other groups that are interested. We work, the Assisted Living Association is another group. So there's a number of groups that are generally aligned.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be some difference how to manage besides that. But, there's a lot of overlapping membership. Mm-hmm. And that's good. I think communication is very good. But, we're talking about how we can engage and start planning together to what we need to do. But, the thing is, and again, I'm not critical, a lot of stuff happened before I took on this role. As I've told people in politics and now in THCA world, I've reserved unto myself the right to form my own grudges.
There you go.
I don't inherit somebody else's enemy.
Like that.
So I will judge people and organizations, whatever, on their own merits based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
Now I may hear stories and that may get filed away, but I'm not going to judge people, prejudge members or associations or groups or whatever based on what somebody else says.
I love that.
So again, I know a lot of the folks associated with Coalition or Leading Age or Tyler or whatever, and I think we all want the same thing, which is to provide the best quality care possible, have state policy align and help us do that, and have federal policy do the same. I think the THCA is the best organization to do that because of our history, because of the quality of staff that we have. And we put together a very, very, just a fine team. In fact, Griffin Communications, I think, is going to be picking up your podcast and pushing this out. We've got a great team of people that know the building, know this world, and I think can move things successfully, which we did this last session really in an unparalleled way.
Do you think we get to the alignment part where when we have leaders like you trying to be aligned? I think that's super important, is having leaders truly devoted to like the alignment that you spoke about. It's like, hey, like I don't care what happened in the past, but I want to move forward. And moving forward, like in order to do the things that we want to do, we all have to be aligned. Do you think that's accurate and on pace?
I think so. And again, the thing that is different, there is some associations, groups, and this is outside of just long-term care, focus really exclusively on what happens in that session. And in truth, you can say what happens in the last 60 days of session or 30 days of session. And so, which is all fine and appropriate and necessary. And that part of the game and the process, I know, I've played, I get it. And I think I would take some small measure of credit for our success in that regard. But when the legislature signing dies, that's not the end. Our administrators go back to the office and take care of people. And the day after that, and the day after that, there are no vacations or time off. When you literally take these people's lives in your hand. So that puts us back into agency world, puts us HHSC world, CMS world, all those things. One of the things that's been a real challenge, and I've been, our comms team is working on this, and I hope you'll help us with this. One of the hardest things is you can get so much in the weeds because how much knowledge our people have. But one of the biggest problems is you pick up a paper, you see this headline, bad thing happens to resident nursing home.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you, and you start reading it, and you get to the bottom and go, well, that wasn't a nursing home.
Yep.
That was an independent living center, or that was, some non-licensed, unregulated, couple of folks staying at home, but they're called a nursing home.
Or it wasn't even the nursing home's fault.
Yeah. No. Or, and those cases where you get a lot of negative publicity on those things that weren't anybody's fault. But more than that, it's like, and this is true, and I can, in the legislature, you're talking about apples to xylophones and everything in between. And so it's hard for any one person to know all these areas. That's why when I was serving, I had members that I knew had life experience in these spaces, that knew the issues, served on those committees, and I would rely upon their judgment advice before I would vote.
So important.
So in this world, we got to make sure that we're tuned in, we're helping, we're supporting the right people. There's a political component to this. That's one reason we have our PAC party tomorrow night. Raise money for Political Action Committee. Now, I would encourage everybody that's listening to support the PAC and to give us the resources we need to make sure our message is met. But at the front end, one of the biggest messages, we're nursing homes. Here's how we are regulated. This is what we do. Oh. And a lot of folks should be surprised don't know that.
Yeah.
Now, back to what I said earlier, they will know that in a few years. Inevitably, they will learn.
Yeah.
Because we all have to deal with it. So the better we are with one voice, just reach out and get that message across and educate people, not only legislators, but everybody. Here's what we do and why it's important is the best thing we can do. So when y'all put your shows out there, make sure we delineate clearly skilled nursing facilities, long-term care. Here's assisted living. Here's your house.
Yep.
Here's these other things that we don't have anything to do with. So some of that misconception is important. And again, I think that's what we do in a uniquely position as the THCA, to share that message, push that message, be consistent in that message.
Super important.
So,
that's a great point.
What part does the board of directors, where do they come into play, and what kind of impact can they have and do they have in the space?
Yeah. Well, those are my bosses.
Yeah.
Can
you also elaborate people who's on the board as well too?
Yeah, we have some great members, and we're just like we've seen in the industry, we see new owners coming in and ownership changing. Yeah. We're seeing a changing with the board. Now we're going to keep several of our old, long tooth board members on board. So our current chairman of the board is Derek Prince with HMG, nice. Long time active. It came up through the ranks as administrator, which is a common story with a lot of our board members. So we've had some new groups form. We're having an election tomorrow. We expect we'll install 5 new board members tomorrow. So we're getting an influx of people, and it's a really interesting, diverse group of people that have common experience, but also bring a different environment from them. Some of it's generational, some of it's regional. But I think I really do like the fact we have members on the board that have 1 or 2 or 3 facilities. We have others that have large numbers, and so we have some that are that may be owned by an out-of-state group, but have a significant presence in Texas. So all those have to fit in the room, and what makes it work is we generally have just a good, fun, nice, smart group of people.
Super important.
That can sometimes put aside their personal, this might be a lot better for us, but for all of us, we need to go this direction. So that's what I see as willingness to work together. And so, we have, it'll be interesting. We'll have our slate of officers. So I can't say who will be leading us in the future, but I know Derek will continue to stay on board as a past chairman, as we have several past chairmen on there. So but we have a good pool to pull from, and I think it's getting better. I think we're getting better people coming in and some real youth and energy, which is fun to have around.
It's awesome. For sure. It's good to hear.
It's fantastic. Let's go forward. So let's think about 5 years in the future. What does THCA look like? And what is the state of affairs for nursing homes in Texas?
Well, I think the THCA will continue to be the leader in this space. We've seen a significant increase in membership since I came on board, and I expect that to continue. But it's one of those things. If you want to grow, give people something they want to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you mentioned that you've sensed that energy being around, and it's different, I think, than it may have been 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Again, times change, circumstance. Ask Dabo Sweeney about that.
Yeah.
That was good. I heard what he said.
Yeah.
I enjoyed what Dabo said.
He's very quotable.
He was quotable.
And, but so sometimes it's what was Charlie Kirk was recently assassinated, and that just happened. And I didn't really know that much about him and who he was, turning point, et cetera. But there was a clip that somebody asked him what's his favorite quotes that he lives by.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I'm a Christian. One of them is a biblical quote. Another one comes from, it was Aristotle, Plato, but he was the one thing, all things work together for good, those who love the Lord."
Yeah.
He said that's a guiding star. But the other one was the expression of that this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said that. Now, this isn't like the A&M quarterback got knocked out for a second, third stringer. And so they went at halftime. They had somebody play quarterback. And the coach got in there and said, "Hey, can anybody in here pass football?" Big old lineman raised his hand and said, "Coach, if I can swallow it, I can pass it." And so this isn't that. This isn't that. But this too shall pass. And the point that Charlie Kirk made was good things and bad things. There are seasons for everything. There are going to be upswings and downswings. Right. And this too shall pass. So what I want to do is build THCA where we've weathered some hard times, but let's build for the good times, but know that we are going to continue to serve. And so that's the importance of a 75-year-old association. It's been on the tip of the spear for long-term care for 75 years here in Texas. And so that's going to continue. So in 5 years, my goal is to grow our membership, improve the quality of services we provide, help provide the educational framework to make sure our folks are up to speed, and make sure we have good voices into the agency and also the legislature. And again, focus, what are we doing here? What is this all about? Yeah. We are here to take care of the people who took care of us.
That's right.
And that's the mission. So that's what I want to do.
Now, would you say, I see these recent wins with the PDPM. I see that the QIPP program, and I could be off by a little bit here, but I believe QIPP had in 2024 was $1.1 billion, and now it's got $1.8 billion going to nursing homes. Would you say that we're now on the upswing?
Well, yes. Now, let's remember that compared to other states around, the other 50 states, I think we were, rocking in at somewhere around 46, 47, 48 in reimbursement rate in the country. Wow. So we had a lot of potential for growth. We had a lot of room for improvement, and we're doing that. But are we there yet? I think with the change we made with the PDM and the last rate change, it puts us up in the, I want to say, upper 20s, low 30s.
Good. Good.
Okay.
Much improved.
So now, I would like to think that we're able to do more with less, because that's what we do in Texas, where we don't need a lot of additional bloated bureaucracy. We don't need things. We don't need to see excesses, because inevitably that's going to come back and get you.
Yeah.
If people don't think they're getting value for the social compact, for our tax dollars to go to support this care, and they think there've been abuses, that's one of the dangerous things about this headline. This huge rampant, I think this is on kind of the hospital doctor side. I don't know the details of it, but anytime something like that happens, it slops over on everybody else.
Sure does.
Put it back in political world. Somebody does something stupid as an elected official. Somebody happens to make some very good trades on the stock market. I never got to get any inside information, so it didn't help me at all.
Hang out with Pelosi.
You're going to give us
but whether it's some bad actor, whatever it is, then people ascribe that to all public servants.
Right.
And something bad happens in a nursing home, and there's a headline. The headline's bad, and the story's not accurate. It hurts all of us.
Sure.
So that's where we need to kind of focus in. And what's the old Disney song? Accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do.
Good.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise.
And appreciate inviting us. I'm really happy that y'all chose to do this here at the convention and to get the word out. And hopefully we'll get something out there on the air. And hope I don't wind up in the editing room floor.
No, I always ask before we leave, I always ask our guests, our title is Our Purpose Podcast. Can you wrap it up? Can you summarize your purpose? Like what is Travis Clardy's purpose in life? What is his purpose at THCA? and how does it impact others?
Well, as my dear old late dad would have said, ain't none of us getting out of here alive.
Yeah.
And so what's the legacy you want to leave behind? And those that you work with and around. And so with me in this position, I'm so excited and honored to be the president of THCA. And again, I wouldn't have taken this position. There were other things that I could have done, but I believe in this mission, and I had the luxury of history with them before I ever thought about, before we lost our mind and ran for office. I love this group of people and what they do, and was proud to represent them as a lawyer and transactional or in the courtroom. That did not change when I put on a different hat in the legislature, and it's not changing now. So I have a real commitment to this space and to the people who work in it. And I hope they'll join and we'll all get together. It's not get in behind and push me, because it's not about me. Who was Charles de Gaulle has attributed the expression, the graveyards are full of indispensable men. It's not about me or you or any of us individually. It is about what we do collectively to make the world a better place. Yeah. And you do that one person at a time. So THCA has done a great job of attracting the right kind of people. We're going to continue to attract those right kind of people. We're going to work together, and the best days are ahead.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Happy 75th anniversary. It was a pleasure sitting down and speaking with you. Let's go enjoy session. Let's go enjoy the conference. Thanks again for talking to us.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Our Purpose Podcast. Thank you for listening today.